Hey guys, it's Shawnee and I'm back with an episode of Shawnee's Lab. So I always want to do a story time and I feel like this is the appropriate story. Now I am going to do a story time about how I abandoned y'all and basically just kind of disappeared and didn't come back for a minute. You know, I stopped doing my reviews. I abruptly stopped doing, the reviews for American Horror Story. So I definitely, I'm going to get a, where I've been, what I was doing video out for that. But for now, I want to do a story time. And this story time, it involves me and the fucking police. So this happened to me over a year or two ago. I was staying with my cousins in Shortham, PA. They live, in the suburbs. And so it was like, I believe it was kind of late at night, but not really. It probably was like maybe 10. It was no later than 10, to 12 p.m. So, I'm in my room, and I'm breaking up my weed or whatever. And I'm like, shit, I don't have any blunt bills. So I'm like, oh damn. So I get dressed and I come my room with my cousin. And she's like, oh damn, I need some cigarettes. And I'm like, word, I'm on my way to the store now. I'll pick you up some. So I leave out. I put on my gray. It was like a tan sweatsuit I had. And you guys might see it in the previous video I had. It was like a gray tan sweatsuit that I always wore. So I put that on and I head out the door. So I'm walking down, Parkview Road, which is where my cousin lived. Why that meaning about her block? My bad, cuz I love you. But so I'm walking down the strip, and a cop, it pulls me over, and he's like, "Oh, hey, there's been a robbery. Be careful. I'm not gonna worry about you because you don't fit the description." The description apparently was, it was like 3 or 4 black young guys, or I don't know if they knew if they were black or not. They just know it was 4 young guys, and I guess they just assumed they were black. They probably were black. Who even knows? And they were wearing black tracksuits, and they had just robbed either a store or something like that. Like they robbed some place or whatever. So he was like, you don't fit the description, but be careful, bada bada bada. I'm like, okay, I'm just on my way to the gas station. Now the gas station, you had to walk up along the long hills and stuff to get out of the development my cousin lived in, suburbs and the developments. And then you would walk all the way down the street, and that's where the gas station was. So, I say my goodbyes to that cop, and I'm like, thanks for the warning. And I'm walking up the street, minding my business, listening to my music. And a cop car coming down the hill. And, instead of, just driving, parking, and pulling over, I'm walking up the street. This guy is driving towards me as I'm walking. So, he basically almost hits me. So, this is me walking, and this is the car, and this is how close he was. So he stops, and he hops out. And he's like, oh, put your hands behind your back, da-da-da-da. And I'm like, well, hey, officer, I'm like, what's going on, He's like, there's been a robbery. You fit the description. I'm like, well, I just talked to a cop, down the street. And he said that I did not fit the description. He told me that they were wearing black tracksuits. He was like, you could have changed your outfit. And I'm like, sir, I'm not carrying any bags. I don't have anything on me, besides my phone, and my wallet, which I didn't tell him because he was like, oh, let me see your ID. And I'm like, well, why do you need to see my ID? He's like, I need to see your ID. So meanwhile, he's patting me down, asking me, let me see your ID. Now, I actually did have my ID, but remember I told you I was wearing my tan tracksuit, and I had my money and my ID inside the shorts I was wearing while I was sitting in bed, and you just put the tracksuit up over the shorts. So, he didn't feel my ID or my cash. So I'm like, I don't have an ID. Meanwhile, my cousin is calling me, So he takes my phone out of my back pocket, and I'm like, you see, I'm like, that's my cousin. She's calling me right now. I'm like, I'm guessing, Fia probably she wanted me to, get her something else in the store, probably get her a Pepsi, an extra box of cigarettes, who knows? I didn't figure out because he wouldn't even let me answer the phone. I'm like, but can I answer the phone so I can let her know, what's going on, so I can tell her, what you're doing, So thankfully, another cop comes rolling down, and he stops, and, so me and this cop, we're arguing. I'm like, bro, because he was black, the cop that, basically almost hit me, he was black. So I'm pissed off at this point. I'm like, nigga, you on the wrong team. You out here, treat me like I'm a suspect, like I'm a criminal just because I'm black. Like, I was pissed. Like, I understand being black in America, this can and will happen to you probably in your lifetime. But for me, I had never had run-ins with the police. I had never, had issues with the police, I was just going to the store to get me some cigarettes and a blunt. Like, I was pissed off. Like, I was like, bro. So, and I hate to say this, but out of all things, the white cop was like, because me and the black cop were about to get into a fight. Like, he kept touching me and searching me. I'm like, you can stop touching me and searching me. And he's like, oh, you can stand over there by the car. And I'm like, no, I'm going to stand right here. He's like, I told you to stand by the car. I'm like, I am not under arrest. I know I don't fit the description, and I did not do anything wrong. I am simply going to the store, just to get some items, like, what the fuck? So the white cop is like, calm down. And he's like, the black cop is like, I was like, I'm not scared of you. I was like, you're only tough because you got that gun, and that badge on your hip. I was like, you didn't have that, we'd be going toe to toe right now. I was like, because not only are, you're being, disrespectful and, you're accusing me of something I did not do. I said, you're being very, crass. I said, you know, you're being ignorant. You know, I don't like the way you're talking to me. You're belittling me. Like, the police have issues, especially these black officers. Y'all fucking got issues. So the white cop is like, you know, young man, just calm down. You know, I don't want this to escalate. You know, you both are angry and upset at this point. And I'm telling the white cop, I'm like, I'm sitting here on my phone walking up the hill, and you rising to me like he almost hit me. He didn't even pull over and stop to pull me over to question me. Like, I don't even fit the description. The white cop was like, you know, man, I understand, you know. So I give them my name and I give them my address, which again, this is my cousin address, you know, and I'm telling them, you know, I live right down the street, which I was living right down the street. I'm like, I live right, you know, this, you know, by Parkview Road. And they're like, oh, okay. I'm like, no, you know, it's not on my ID. I don't have my ID. I was like, you know, I'm 20, you know, what was I, 22, 23? I'm like, I'm 22, 23 years old, you know, or it might have been 24, either 23 or 24. I'm like, I don't have, you know, my remember this was a year or two ago, a year and a half ago. I don't have, you know, the address on my ID. It's still my old address. So they asked me a few more questions, you know, and then they let me go. And then I'm just still just sitting there like I could not believe it. And I remember that night I wanted to go home and make a YouTube video of it, but I was so upset. I had to like smoke, calm myself down, do all of those good things. But I remember being so upset and just so, you know, disappointed, not only, you know, in the police department, but just in, you know, a black man himself. Like, you know, like I told you, when I first came out the house, and I think, and these the only nice officers I came in contact to that night were white. Like, the white guy, he saw me come out of my home, my cousin's home. He watched me, you know, walking up the street, and he told me, you know, be careful, you know, he was like, you don't fit the description. I'm like, yeah, I just came out the house, you know, just happened to be going to the store. And you know what's even weird? The fact that, you know, they happened to just have robbed the store, you know, and were wearing black tracksuits, and I just happened to be coming outside with the tracksuit, but however, a tan one. I could understand how they could misconstrue that as, you know, me, you know, hurry up and change your clothes. But like I said, I didn't have any bags. I was not sweating. I did not look like I was in a panic. I was not running. I had headphones in, phone in hand, listening to music. And again, like I said, when the black cop was, after he almost basically ran me over to pull me over and search me, the way he's patting me down, and my cousin is called, like she called multiple times, and I'm telling him, I'm like, that's my cousin right now, you know, I'm going to the store for, you know, me and her. Like, it just wasn't believable. And I'm like, I don't know. Of course you could say, you know, oh, because I'm black, that didn't believe me, but also just simply because he just assumed I fit the, you know, description. And again, I can't believe I've never talked about this story. I guess now because I'm more comfortable, you know, in my life and more, you know, sustainable, you know, I feel like, you know, there's a need to talk about it. But, you know, the fact that, you know, all black men or, you know, all black women or, you know, just black people in general will go through these types of situations in their life, I think it's really sad. Like, I was devastated, you know, I was upset, I was frustrated. Like, me and that black cop really almost with the blows. Like, when I tell you, because like the way he was, you know, manhandling me and, you know, turning me around, searching me, like, I was like, yo, I'm like, bro, like, if it wasn't for that white cop, honestly, y'all probably either would have got shot that night. And think about this, my cousin is sitting here calling, and she sent me out for me to go get a blunt mill, for me to get cigarettes. And if I would have been murdered that night, she probably would have been like, she would have had no idea. She probably would have found out on the news that day, like, oh shit, Rashawn never came back. You know, she probably thought I went to go see my girlfriend, because, you know, I was still dating Leah at the time. She probably, you know, just would have thought anything, you know, maybe he just dipped out, didn't say anything, you know, like, she would have never known what happened to me. And I remember when I came back and told her, she was like, you get the fuck out of here. I'm like, cousin. She was like, why you ain't just come back right away? I'm like, well, shit, they had let me go, you know, and I had went to the store. I'm like, shit, I went out to get our stuff. I might as well, you know. But that was really like a wild time. Like, I really can't believe that happened to me. And the thing is, I wasn't even shocked. And I feel like that's the saddest part about this whole story. I was not shocked that it happened. I was just upset that it happened. But I was not shocked nor surprised, because I'm like, of course, this is how they'll treat a young black man, you know, who doesn't even fit the description, but just because I'm happy to be a young black man. And I'm like, bro, this is Shorthand, PA. I'm like, you know, I'm a paying citizen. Like, I was going the whole nine. I'm a paying citizen. I work. I pay taxes. You know, I'm a good kid. I don't even have run-ins with the police. I'm like, I even gave them my name, address, and my last four of my social. So when they were sitting in the car, I was just still sitting there in front of the car. So they ran my name, and they saw that it was nothing. I'm like, now, yes, you can even Google me. There's nothing. You will not find anything regarding me and the police, because that's not the type of person I am. Not to, you know, toot my own horn and think that I'm better than anybody, but that's just who I am. I'm not a run into the police, criminal, get into that kind of bullshit type of guy. So the fact that I was, you know, misconstrued and misunderstood to be, you know, somebody who just recently, you know, held a robbery. Again, I'm not even sweating. I'm not panting. I don't have an extra bag on me. I'm just walking up the thing with my fucking headphones in, and I just happen to be, you know, frisked, stopped, harassed, and, you know, treated like anything less than human by, you know, the Shorthand Police Department. I mean, if anybody's ever had these similar experiences, let me know in the comment section. Any men, any women, how did you feel about the situation? Have you ever had this situation happen to you? You didn't talk about it. Like I said, I wanted to talk about it over a year and a half ago when I was fluently doing YouTube, but I didn't want it to make it seem like, I was just trying to, get views or, people to feel sympathy, because honestly, like I said, this happens to, almost every black person. So, it was just kind of more so upsetting and more so like a big what the fuck than anything. But, let me know what you think in the comment section. This has been my story time about the time I was basically stopped, harassed, and frisked by the police under false and ridiculous circumstances where I did not fit the description. Like I said, did not fit the description at all. But I was still arrested. And like I said, even when I came back to talk to my cousin, she was like, should we call somebody? Should we do something? And I'm like, no. I'm like, and the crazy thing is, usually the Shoreham Police Department are cool as hell. Like, I remember one time, me and my cousin was suburb. I mean, we were teenagers. Like I said, this is my cousin's house. Me and her daughter, we were teenagers, and we would be like smoking, in the trees, chilling in the parks or whatever. And the cops would ride past us, and they would not say a thing. They would not stop us. They would actually wave at us like, "Oh, hey, how you doing, kids? Stay out of trouble." Meanwhile, we sitting here smoking weed. So they usually a little bit chilled and lax. Like, I don't know if they were just on edge because there was a robbery or whatever. But that does not give you an excuse to treat or misconstrue a black person as someone who just committed a robbery when they don't even fit the description. Like, my only crime that night was being young and black and being out late and walking. Like, that was my only crime, and that upsetted me really greatly. So let me know what you guys think about this story time. I plan to do more story times, talk more about my life, be more open and fluent, but let me know what you guys think about this episode of Shawnee's Lit.